Right, hello, I'm Debs. This is Debs Made This. Welcome. Today I've got a review of the Fibremood Nina for you, so if that interests you, please stay tuned. So the Fibremood Nina was the dress I chose to wear for the gathering, and I'll put a link to the video up here where I was making my decision. And from that you can see that this wasn't really originally what I was planning to do at all. This fabric was supposed to be a knit dress, so I have another 2 meters of it sitting in my stash. And it'll want to be something else again, I'm sure. The Fibremood Nina is a Fibremood magazine pattern from issue number 20 from last year, and I had the magazine rather than, it was when my subscription had finished, so I had the magazine copy of it. The main features of the dress are this pleated bodice, so it has a pleated front bodice that comes in that deep V, and a pleated back bodice which surrounds a backless section. It has thick elastic across the waist, and a gathered single-tiered skirt. So the fabric, it suggests, and what it says, Nina works best in a woven fabric. A structured fabric such as poplin or batiste will result in a more statement dress. If you want the dress to turn out soft and swishy, select a fabric with a fluid drape, e.g. silk satin, double gauze, viscose crepe or muslin. And the fabric that I used is a Cloud 9 cotton sateen that came from Bobbins and Bolts. And it's this very kind of grass green for me, with a very large pink and orange floral, obviously. It comes in sizes 4 to 32, and I shall put what that means down below, but you then translate that sizing into continental sizes in order to trace off the correct size in the pattern. And Fibremood has always been like that, and it kind of adds a kind of complicated step, but I presume it's because of the way that it's produced. So I really like this dress, and I shall put in a little video of me twirling in it before I went out. And I felt kind of glamorous and put together and really comfortable at the same time. Sizing. I chose my size based mostly on my bust measurements because the bust needs to fit, and because the waistband is elasticated at the back, and because the hips are fairly free-sized. I needed to grade between a 42 and a 44 from my workings out, and I did that as I was tracing out, and then didn't have any problem. Because you trace from the Fibremood magazine, I do what I usually do, which is to draw on the line that I need to cut, that I need to trace in the magazine using a dark friction pen, or sometimes I use a highlighter depending on what kind of paper I'm using, but I've got some new pattern paper that's a bit thicker. So I used a dark friction pen so that I could see that when I put the tracing paper over the top. And I then needed to add seam allowance. So the key with Fibremood is the ones that are in the magazine, you need to add the seam allowance to it. The ones that are on the website, you can choose with the seam allowance in, so you've just got to remember which one you're doing. The magazine tells you how much seam allowance to add to each pattern piece. And then I have my cool little generates circles. Hopefully you can see that. So she makes these little seam circles, so you can kind of add a certain amount of seam allowance to different places, and that she has ones with a bigger hole in the front and a littler hole in front, depending on what kind of pencil you like to use. So I like using those ones to add my seam allowance. I can kind of do it by eye nearly now, but that just makes sure that I'm being reasonably accurate. So the pockets are those flappy inseam ones. So I did what I always do, which to make it into like an elephant ear shape. So you add kind of a rectangle onto the top part so that inserts into the waistband. I'm sure you know what I mean. If you don't, just leave me a message down below and I'll put a drawing in. But what I didn't remember was that this is kind of an empire waist dress, so actually the pockets need to be a little bit lower, and the next time I would drop them by a couple of inches, I think. But that's probably the only change I would make if I was making it again. So there were a few issues with this pattern, and I thought I would probably just share those first of all, and then kind of come to my kind of 5 top tips. So the issues, number 1, were with the sizing. So that whole Fibremood thing about converting from centimeters into a size, and then from that size into a numerical size, and then into a continental size. For this pattern, it doesn't look, from how it looks on the mannequin, that your bust measurement is important, but actually that's the only one that's key, and that's because it has an under bodice that sits underneath here, and that's going to have to fit you nicely if the dress is going to fit you nicely. The second is the fabric requirements. So the fabric requirements for my size was 3.25 meters of unidirectional fabric. And I got this from less than 2.5 meters. I definitely have a chunk left from the 2.5 meter cut that I had. 3/4 of a meter less fabric than you're supposed to need. And there isn't, like, I didn't make any height adjustments or change anything. So that's probably worth knowing. The third thing is the pleats. So the information about the pleats from Fibremood is given in two places. There are some information in the magazine, and there's also some information online. And both of those left me still a little bit concerned about how to actually make the pleats happen. The main issue, I was just going to show you the diagrams that they give you in here, but the main issue for me was that you have a seam here and a seam here, and the pleats kind of, you have to decide if they're going to be parallel to this waist seam or to the shoulder seam and kind of go with that. And I wasn't quite sure, and it's not quite evident from the video which way you do it, but you can see in here, I shall just flash that up. If you can't see that, I'll put a photograph in. But so normally, if they're straightforward things in Fibremood, you can just, sorry, that's the Fibremood edition that it's in, number 20. You can just, you hardly have to look at the instructions really, do you? But for this, you kind of needed instructions. So I had found online that they had produced a video of how to do it, and that kind of was more helpful. They still say one thing and then they demonstrate another thing. So there was one point it said turn it under by 1 to 2 centimeters, and the lass in the video had at least an inch and a half, so a good kind of 3 or 4 centimeters that she was turning it under by. They also tell you to pleat nearly to the bottom of the bodice, but actually they don't want you to do that. You need to have a good, and I ended up unpicking one of my pleats because it was coming too close into this seam. So you have to have enough, obviously, to be able to insert the bodice into the waistband. I have 92 pleats. It tells you in the instructions how many pleats you need for the size that you are making. So I had 92. You start by constructing the back bodice, and these are all the same width apart, so 2.4 centimeters apart from my size and 7 centimeters long. So what I did was construct a template. This is not it, I've lost it, but essentially, just a piece of card that has the right dimensions, because what you're going to do is to press these on your ironing board and then take them all across and stitch them at 0.5 centimeters. So to stitch them at 0.5 centimeters, I cheated. I used washi tape and push it, that's a kind of low stick tape that's kind of got pretty colours and things, and I stuck that at 0.5 centimeters because that's not a seam allowance that I would usually use. I'm sure if you're a quilter you're used to doing that, but so I wasn't used to that. So that was okay. So you do that one first, and because this is a straight piece, that's much easier. And then you come on to the front ones, and there's maths to do again. So don't get bamboozled by the maths. Just follow their instructions, and it all turns out all right. The more tricky thing, as I say, is just making sure that, so this is the longer piece. So this piece of fabric is like a trapezoid. It's not got any parallel lines on it. So that's what makes it more tricky. So this one, you draw a line from the 7 centimeters up to, I can't remember, like 3/4 of the way along, I think it is. And then you draw a line and then you pleat to that line. So these are all different lengths, these pleats. But again, you can use your template to keep that distance, and that's obviously the most important part of it. The construction of the bodice is tricky. So we've got this cross happening here, but actually all of our points converge. So you've got one of those little dots that you're trying to get everything to line up, and it was tricky. But they all converge here. So you can see that the crossover comes past that point. So you're trying to end up everything. But it means at this point, you've got pleated bodice, under bodice, pleated bodice, under bodice, and 2 lines of waistband. So 6 layers of fabric, all trying to get to the right kind of point there. So that was a bit tricky. So then when you've constructed that, it gives you instructions on how to do kind of a rolled hem, I think, or a double fold hem under here. I did these sewed mine by hand, and I hemmed it by hand, and I did the inner bodice by hand, but that's just because that's the way I like to do it. The back, there is a little tie to keep it from falling off your shoulders, although mine didn't feel like it would. It felt like it was quite comfortable. And then there's a deep elastic that's inserted into the side seams on either side, that needs to be quite neat. Now they give you dimensions for that as well, but I ended up taking, I think, at least 4 inches off the elastic. Now whether I just had really stretchy elastic, I am really little, my underbust measurement compared to the rest of me is quite small, so some of that might be my body as well. So, but it's just a warning that you need to kind of actually get that properly in to work out whether you need to take any off before you kind of close up completely under there. But because that's kind of how this sits nicely against the body, that's kind of an important thing to get. I really like the fact that it's not got too many tiers or too much fullness. And so if you'd got like a panel print or something, it would be really nice for that. It would be a really nice way to show that off in that skirt. Now, I did make a rookie error. The rookie error that I made was not to have chosen my underwear to fit this dress to. So in my head, so I have got a multi-way Marks and Spencer's bra, which has an invisible silicone band at the front here, and an option to kind of make it really low backed and have a silicone band across between the 2 straps at the back. And that was going to be perfect, not a problem. But the size that I have in that is a little on the small size for me at the moment. So I needed a new one. Did I go and get a new one? No, I just kind of winged it. I fitted it on another bra, and then was surprised when I came to wear that underwear that things didn't fit quite right. So my advice, number 1, choose your underwear that you are going to wear under this dress before you start, so that you are fitting to that underwear. Number 2, watch the pleat information, watch the video, make notes on the video, follow the formula thing, and make a template, because it makes it easier. And I would twirl that part of the bodice. I shall insert a picture of my twirl. It's that muscle memory. It's just practicing doing something. So when you come to do it on your good fabric, the likelihood is that you're going to get it right first time. Sorry, I'm peeking at my notes on the table. I've put keep going, and that's because at one point you put together the right side of this with the wrong side of the bodice, and your brain's going, that's not right, that can't be right, that can't be right. But because you kind of flip it over so that this then becomes the right side, and these are wrong side to right side, that's how it sits on you, because then the wrong side is against the body. So like there's a couple of points in it at which your brain kind of rebels slightly, but just kind of keep plodding on, and it comes together. And watch the elastic length, because you might need less than you think, and especially when it's actually on your body. I really enjoyed making it. I really enjoyed wearing it. And it got lots of compliments and won a prize, so that's nice, isn't it? So I hope that's been helpful. I'm sure I've forgotten something. So if there's a question you need to ask me, just pop it down below and I'll do my best to answer. And I think that's it. Let me know, have you got this pattern? Are you planning to make it? I really like this pattern. I think I might make another one, although I'm not sure that my wardrobe and my lifestyle really needs 2 very fancy pleated bodice dresses. But I still maintain, I think you could wear this in the summer with your sandals for like mooching along the beach or whatever, and you wouldn't look overly dressed. It is just really nice. You could even put over your bikini, couldn't you? And I hope that you're going to make one. So that's it from me for today. I am wearing my entry for Sew April blouse 23, which is a hack of the Pauline Alice Ibby dress. And I may or may not. I think I might make another one, and then I might do you a little video about it. But I just essentially, I really like the raglan sleeve and the kind of shirt version. So the Ibby has got 6 variations, and I like all of them. And I'm going to make another dress at some point, but I just kind of fancied a blouse or shirt type version, so I kind of tweaked it and then gave it a bit of a curved hem, and I finished the curved hem with bias tape. And I really enjoyed making it, and actually I've worn it quite a lot, considering I only finished it 3 days ago. I don't think it hasn't quite made it back into the wardrobe yet. So that's a mark of a good make, isn't it? So I shall catch you again soon, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are finding time to rest and replenish and do some making if that's what feels good. Please do a like and subscribe for me if that's something that appeals. And I shall see you again soon. Bye bye for now.